Hey everyone, Tipster here, and I wanted to take a moment to respond to the situation that unfolded on Twitter a few days ago and kind of give my thoughts on the matter. In the past, when situations have gone on involving me, I have just kind of taken it laying down and allowed people to kind of come to their own conclusions or whatever, and I've decided I'm not going to do that this time. There is far too much misinformation and misrepresentation of this situation going on, some of which is bad faith, and some of which is purely based off of ignorance. And as a result, people are coming to conclusions about my character and who I am as a person that aren't even remotely accurate, and I want an opportunity to clear that up. Now, I understand that not everyone uses Twitter here, and trust me, your life is much better for it. Twitter is a very cancerous place and the last place any kind of discourse should take place, which is kind of part of the problem in this particular situation. But anyway, on Twitter there was a big commotion that started surrounding a friend of mine known as Rum, a picture she liked, and my defense of her regarding this picture. Now I get it, some of you are all probably already confused. How does liking a picture cause drama? Well, the argument was made that this picture may be inappropriate, that this picture may be qualified as something known as lolly. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with lolly is anime-inspired art depicting children. And where that becomes an issue is when these pictures depict a child in an inappropriate manner. So some of the people had seen the picture that she liked and that it was in her likes on Twitter, took issue with it and interpreted it to be lolly. Now, for obvious reasons, I cannot show the picture here, but the only thing I will say is that it was not a fully nude picture and it was not depicting a child engaged in any kind of sex act. It was a questionable picture for sure, but somewhat ambiguous in my opinion at the time. But a bit of a conversation regarding this image started taking place in some of the sub-communities on Twitter. And some of the people having these conversations were starting to present an opinion of my friend in a negative light because of this picture being in her Twitter likes. Now at the time, I wasn't aware this was happening. I literally had no idea this was going on at all. But when she reached out to me to discuss this, I became aware of it. And needless to say, I know my friend. I know they aren't into that kind of shit. I know they aren't a bad person. So of course I had something to say about the matter. And on Twitter, I said the following. I see the usual suspects are trying to call someone out for, quote, liking lolly, unquote, when they don't know what the fuck lolly actually is. Some things never change. Now the reason I said this was twofold. First, the obvious. A friend of mine was in the crossfire and I did what any good friend would do. I defended them. And second, I have seen conversations about lolly happen in this community in the past that were insanely overblown. I have literally seen people cast out of this community over liking anime art that was completely harmless. Yet for some reason, this community saw an issue with it and went on the attack. And as a result of those incidents in the past, I kinda have a real personal gripe with the commentary community and their take on this issue, which I think is often a really ill-informed take. So I tweeted out this tweet and this sparked a massive debate between myself and the rest of the community about whether this image was lolly or not. And to sum up my position as best as I possibly fucking can, my position was literally just this. Is this image lolly? And if so, why? And oddly enough, that somehow got twisted into Tipster is a lolly defender, Tipster likes lolly, Tipster is a fan of lolly, and none of that is accurate to anything that I said at all. Literally none of it. People started going nuts on Twitter about how it was a lolicon, and people started firing up live streams to dissect every word, when all I was really asking was, is this really lolly? Anyway, before I move on, let me make this crystal fucking clear. I do not like lolly content. I do not approve of the creation or consumption of lolly content, and I do not defend lolly content under any circumstances. I have never defended the existence of lolly content, and I never will. Period. Now, we did eventually come to the conclusion that this was actually lolly based on some digging we did on the account that originally posted it. Well, actually, it was Shota. Basically lolly, but for male characters, for those of you who are unaware. But we were basically able to find translated tweets of the artist referring to it as a young boy. Which is also kind of funny in its own way because everyone was arguing about how it looked like a little girl, and it was actually a boy. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still inappropriate, but this is why I was asking the questions I was asking. We knew fuck all about the character that was depicted in this image, and yet judgment calls were being made about it, and I was just looking for a bit of clarification just to be sure. And once we got that clarification, I conceded my fucking point and moved on. Done deal. Now, if you want to make the criticism that my argument was a dumb argument to make, fair enough. In hindsight, I wouldn't even disagree with you, mainly because of the way this community acts when it comes to this subject. But even I can own up to my own faults here. This was not an argument that even I am equipped to tackle properly. But in my opinion, my biggest mistake was trying to have this conversation in this community, because they too aren't equipped to tackle this conversation properly. And the really fucked up thing is that this could have been a very positive and productive learning moment, not just for me, but the entire community. But unfortunately, this community doesn't have the intellectual capacity to have these kinds of conversations. Instead, people are more preoccupied with finding the next big story and firing up live streams to make snap judgments instead of actually trying to understand where I was coming from. The only person who was willing to be charitable and hear my arguments at the time and understand where I was coming from was Paige Christie, and I did not deserve her charitability considering I have been a colossal dick to her in the past. And again, I really want to hit home the point that these people often have no idea what they are talking about when it comes to this topic. Just as an example, as part of this conversation, the topic of chibi art came up, and Doc on the radio, who was chiming in on all of this, didn't even know what chibi art was. Even worse, the people claiming to be experts who claimed to know what it was weren't even giving an accurate interpretation of what it is. I mean, the bar is so low in regards to what qualifies as lolly that someone made a thread on Twitter with examples that had fully clothed, non-sexualized characters, and I saw that and I just scratched my head like, how? Like, I'm not even joking. I truly believe these people are not qualified to pass judgment on this issue, like, at all. But I digress, that's beside the point. The shit that people were getting so wrong about this whole ordeal is insane. For example, Turkey Tom said I was the one who was exposed for liking these kind of images and his chat had to correct him. Keemstar misquoted me claiming I had a tweet that I would, quote, die on the lolly hill, when that is not what I said at all. In fact, here's what I actually said on a tweet that is still public at this moment. I stand by my take, Rum did nothing wrong, I will die on that hill. I said this because I truly believed, and still believe, Rum didn't do anything wrong. She accidentally liked an image while scrolling through her timeline. Which, by the way, that's another thing. Everyone keeps saying I dived into the situation head first without knowing anything about the situation, and that I hadn't even spoken to her. Dog, I was literally in call with her when I made my initial tweet. As a matter of fact, she contacted me right after her first tweet about it, and we talked for over an hour before I had even said a word about it publicly. Her saying that she didn't talk to me before she posted her first tweet about it somehow got spun into us not talking about it at all. And that's the saddest thing. People were so determined to spin a narrative here that they were misrepresenting everything she said just to get a dunk on me. And because of that, before I continue, I want to apologize to her regarding this whole ordeal. I want to first apologize that this happened in the first place. The mistake you made was harmless and it never should have gotten this far. At most, whoever saw it first should have made you aware of it and advised you to unlike the tweet, and it should have just ended there. But instead, we got this. Second, I want to apologize for getting involved, because I can admit it got even bigger because of my involvement. I let my prior frustrations with this community regarding this issue, as well as the fact that you were now being questioned, get the best of me. And as a result, I made it even worse, and for that, I am truly sorry. And third, I want to apologize to you for the people that used and twisted your words to spin a narrative. I know how frustrated you were to see that and how much stress that caused you. And I am deeply sorry that happened. And to all the fucking incels who keep making this about Tipster defending one of his e-whores, first off, she's a friend, and a good one at that. And second, that's a retarded fucking argument, because I literally gave the same defense to Lyrics last year, someone who not only doesn't have tits, but also made multiple videos shitting on me. Someone who arguably didn't deserve my defense, and yet I did it anyway. And his case was even more ridiculous. Several of the images he was called out for weren't even remotely inappropriate, like fully clothed, non-sexualized characters. It was insane. But again, the amount of things that people got wrong in this whole ordeal were so fucked that I'm sure that I'm probably missing some. It was unbelievable. This community has literally shat on people in the past for getting shit wrong. Papa Gut is a good example. He was banished to the fucking Phantom Zone for getting shit wrong, and now he's lucky if he gets 70 live viewers on a good day. But people in this community are just as bad. I get that we're human and we make mistakes sometimes, but y'all fuck this one up so damn bad, it's crazy. And these are just some of the many issues I have had with the commentary community over the course of the past year. And it's the reason for the past year that I have been distancing myself from this community. This community is so desperate to expose the next big creep or pedophile that fuck the molehill, y'all made a mountain out of a fucking grain of sand. During this ordeal, Keemstar was saying that everyone should come together and oust me from the community, the same way they did with Flamenco. And to that I say, don't bother. I'll see myself on out. When it comes to situations like this, I'm personally more interested in having civil and productive conversations to get to the bottom of these things and get a better understanding of them. And the majority of this community would rather pick at everyone like scavengers and hold internet screaming matches. Even Tommy C said it. This shit was a nothing burger. It was just another commentary community witch hunt. This community has become so much about demonizing people that they don't take the time to get to the heart of the matter and find out what's really going on. And I really don't want to be a part of that anymore. I like creating content surrounding trending topics on social media, and I will continue to do that. But as far as me being a part of this community, nah, hard pass. I am all for criticizing people and even using our platforms to expose legitimately bad people who use and abuse their platforms to prey on and exploit people, especially children. But when we start putting the actions of innocent people under a microscope to find the next villain of the week, something has gone horribly wrong. It's gross, and I, for one, refuse to be a part of that. I refuse to be a part of a community that fosters that kind of behavior. For fuck's sake. We used to be the community that would dig deep into a topic to clear the names of innocent people and have even vindicated people with evidence who were previously condemned due to outright lies in the past. Yet somehow we got from there to here. It's fucking crazy. And I can't even act like I'm not part of the problem. I engaged in this same behavior in the past and I contributed to this, and I just don't want to do it anymore. To be frank, with the exception of a few people in this community that I consider friends, I think the rest of you all are a bunch of fucking parasites, and I want nothing to do with that. And yes, I will die on that hill.